Welcome back, folks. In this video, we're going to take a look at flat colors and how we can make them look good, along with some selection tricks that will make it easier when you're digitally coloring. So let's take a look. I've got my magic wand tool turned on. I'm going to make sure that I have the following settings in place. I want my tolerance to be 66. I want to make sure that anti-alias, contiguous, and sample all layers are checked. This will allow me to work on different layers and still honor the selections that are present on the illustration. In this case, I've got the line art on a separate layer. I've got a blank layer underneath, and this is the layer that I'll be coloring on. So what I'll do is I'll first of all use the magic wand tool to select the parts of the box. I'll then select the parts outside of the box, because the goal here is to inverse the selection that I'm making so I can just color the figure. So now if I hit Shift, Command I, and I fill in this color, the color appears on the character. So that's a really powerful technique. Now what I can do is, with that magic wand tool, make a new layer, and I can fill that background in however I wish. And I'm filling it in with Option Delete or Alt Backspace on the PC. So now that I have this base color, and then I selected this kind of a dark skin tone color because I can work with that and modify it, and I can derive my other colors very quickly from it. So I can hit Control or Command U. I can make this a little bit lighter, a little bit more saturated. There we go. And now I've got the shirt, so I can hold down the Shift key and apply the magic wand tool and get most of the shirt. Now on that base color layer, Control J, Control U. I can adjust the hue. I want to make this somewhat red. There we go. And now these little pockets that are not colored in, that are part of the shirt, I can just use the lasso tool. Hold down the Shift key with the lasso tool. And I can quickly color those areas in by first sampling that red and then hitting Alt Backspace. So in this case, I've colored most of the shirt now. Now I'll focus on, I've got the skin tone all ready for the character. So what I'll do now is I'll use the lasso tool, and I'll make a very coarse selection around the hair. And I'm using the lasso tool as opposed to the magic wand because I'm dealing with a lot of lines here, and I would have to click on every single enclosed shape. And not that I can't do that, but it's just going to take me way more time. So this just makes it easier for me to make the whole selection. I can hit Command J. I'm on the base color layer, Command U, and I'll make this somewhat dirty blonde. And then I'll sample that color. I'm putting all of my colors on their own layer just for easier adjustments. And these are flat colors. These are colors that do not have any highlight or shading information just yet. This is how I usually start off. Now if I want to get the white of the eyes, again with the lasso tool and the base color layer, hold down the Shift key to add to your selection, Control J, Control U, and then you can crank the lightness all the way up. The hat, using the magic wand tool. Go back to the base layer, Command J, Command U. I want to rob the saturation and make this darker. And I can come back in at whatever I missed. I can always go back in with the brush. So this just makes short work of coloring. This area right here, the logo, Again, going back to the base layer, Control J, Control U. Let's make that. Red. And you can see that there are some areas that I didn't fill in with my line work, no problem. Go back in with my lasso tool, Control X. And then these little pockets inside here, I alternate between the lasso tool and the magic wand tool, depending upon what's most convenient. Sample with the eyedropper tool to get that red, fill it in. Oh, there's another little area that I forgot. So if I wanted to say, I'll move this up here. I'm just adjusting my layers. If I wanted to be able to color DD Speed Shop as white, go back to my base layer, make a sloppy selection around all of that text, Control J. That bumps the selection onto its own layer, Control U, and change the lightness to white. And then I need to get the eyes. Go back to the base layer. I want them to be somewhat blue-ish. Saturate it up a little bit. And you'll notice that with this technique, I am not going back to my color panel. Not that that's a bad thing, but it's much easier for me just to go ahead and cherry pick the colors that I want and quickly get those colors using the hue saturation tool. So here I've got what are called flat colors. These colors do not have any variation in terms of highlights or shading. Let's take a look and see how we can compare these colors to make sure the colors are working well. We want to see if those colors resolve to a value, a grayscale value. So if you go up to View, Proof Setup, Custom, and change this device to simulate to working gray, you can automatically see a grayscale version. And if you hit Command Y or Control Y, you can toggle between the grayscale version. And the reason why this is important is it allows us to see contrast. We can see that the hat has good contrast against the skin tone. The hair and the skin are very similar in value. They're both resolved to a very similar shade of gray. I can maybe tweak that. And it's easier for me to tweak that if I have my colors on their own layer. So I can go back up here. I can just make that hair just a little bit lighter. Now if I do my grayscale test, there is more contrast there. So to finish this tip off, what I'd like to do is just talk about adding a little accent. So I've got my flat colors here, and I want to think about where the light is coming from. So I'm going to use a white value, white color, and I'm going to have the light coming in from the right-hand side. And so everything on the right is going to have some highlights. And by the way, this is Dan from DD Speed Shop. This is the person who I'm illustrating. If you haven't seen his YouTube channel, he works on hot rods. Pretty awesome channel. Do check it out. I'm a huge car YouTuber fan. And I think that his channel is really awesome. And I'll finish this technique out after I add my accents. I like to just come back in, go on the layer above my inks layer, and I'll just add a sliver of a highlight just to make those eyes have a little bit more life to them. So just with flat colors, adjusting them using the the value checking option here under Proof Setup, as well as adding an accent, you've got pretty decent colors that you can work with. If your values resolve to a similar shade of gray, just adjust them using the hue saturation panel. If you found value in this video, definitely give it a thumbs up. If you haven't already considered subscribing, please do so. My name is Krishna. Thank you for watching. I'll see you on the next one.